What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. My name is Barba223 and today we're doing a Magic Warden PvP build. I'm doing my build a little bit differently today, so today I'm just going to have some gameplay on the background while I talk about the actual build in the video and show little layovers of the gear, the sets, the skills, and everything in between. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and yeah. Alright, so the character screen is going to be, so here we have the character screen in the top right. So we have about 25,500 magic, we have 38,000 health, we have 15,000 stamina, we have 1,700 mag recovery before we use a potion and before you counter it or account for the Betty, so you get well over 2,000, you get about 2,200. And then with the spell damage, we're going to get well over 4,000. With our Sea Serpent, our Betty buff, and our Balord buff, and using a light attack on the back bar, we get, I think, almost 5,000. Plus, we get Northern Storm, so Northern Storm is going to give us straight up spell damage. So it's very hard to show exactly when it's all buff, but you get a lot of spell damage. You get 28% crit. You get a good amount of penetration. It's not the most, but it's a pretty solid amount. 7,500 or whatever it is pretty good. On the back bar we're at 30k resistance, and on the front bar we're at a little bit less, which is no big deal. And then the crit resist is 1,700, but you end up with a ton of crit resist because we are using Rallying Cry, so we're going to get a ridiculous amount of crit resistance on the build. So yeah, that's the character screen. And we also were using the Atronach, and we also were a stage revamp. Please do whatever you want with that information. So next we're talking about what we're using on the front bar. Alright, so on the front bar we are using the Master Ice Staff. Now, this just hits insanely hard. If you don't know what it does, well, one, I have Sharpened on it because Sharpened is just my favorite. It hits like a truck. It's just really, really good. But if you want to use poisons like I am, please do so. The daily rewards give you a ton of poisons for free, so you should probably just use those. Crown Lethal poisons, they're really good. But anyways, what the Master Ice Staff does when you use Destructive Clench, so the Frost Clench skill you see I'm using here in the video that I'm spamming, that skill is going to give you 600 spell damage for 3 seconds. So you just spam that, use your spammable, and you'll have 100% uptime unless you're on your back bar of 600 extra spell damage. So in the back bar, we are using Rallying Cry. Now, Rallying Cry is a really, really common set nowadays. It's one of the only sets in the game that to me is really, really good at balancing offense and defense. A lot of times it's hard for me to find a set where on the back bar where I don't lack damage or I lack tankiness. I don't lack anything on Rallying Cry, simply because it just gives everything you really could want. It gives damage, it gives tankiness, it gives team utility, right? If you don't know what Rallying Cry does, it gives crit, it gives magic, it gives crit again, and then the 5-piece is whenever you critically heal, you give you and your teammates spell damage and crit resist. So yeah, it's really, really good. I mean, the more teammates you have by are going to give you a little bit less of all that, but as you can see here in this clip that I'm about to have, I'm really tanky. It's really hard to kill me because of Rallying Cry. It's just a really, really tanky, strong set. It's just a really good set for Warden, especially because you have a lot of team util, which is something Warden excels at, is doing team heals, team damage, AoE heals, right? Just really good in a team fight. So yeah, that's something to note. Now I'm using one-handed shield. The reason I'm doing that is because, to be honest, I used Resto Staff for the longest time, but I really, really, really underestimated the value of being able to block on your back bar with your shield. So yes, we only have 15,000 stamina, but all you have to do is heavy attack with your shield, which you'll see me do in this clip every now and then, just to get like half of your stamina back. Like, you can essentially sit there and block with your shield out and heavy attack in between and heal and tank, like right here in this clip, literally this exact clip. Alright, so I heavy attack to get my stamina back. I'm blocking because I have to heal up, but I use my Northern Storm to just tank it out. And it makes it a lot harder to kill me. I kind of just tank everything out, and then eventually I think they give up, so it's kind of exactly what I'm looking for here. It's a perfect clip to demonstrate why one-handed shield is solid, and there you go, they gave up. So, as the monster set, we are going to use Balord. So Balord is a really, really good set. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there's another option, and that other option is Engine Guardian, if you don't want to use Balord. But now, I'm going to tell you also, Balord is the best option. It's best in slot. The reason for that is because it synergizes insanely well with the Warden's kit. That's because every time you ult with Northern Storm, you're going to get a bunch of spell damage from Northern Storm, and then Balor is going to stack on top of that, so you're getting double damage essentially from it, which is absolutely absurd. So you're going to get a ton of value from Balor because you're going to get that crazy proc. It's just, you kind of melt people. Now Engine Guardian, on the other hand, gives you a little bit more sustain, a little bit more survivability. It gives you a ton of resources all the time. As you can see in this video, I'm getting a lot back from Engine Guardian here. But also at the same time, it gives them a target that they have to focus, so it's really annoying. Now, I always use this statistic, and people are always surprised by it. Engine Guardian actually negates 15% damage, so keep that in mind. People hit the Guardian 15% of the time with stuff, and you're getting essentially 15% of the damage you take, which is really nice. So yeah, Engine Guardian's a good shout, but Balor's the bread and butter for Warden for sure. So as our other set, now we can't use a 5-piece here, so I have a monster set, I have a mythic, I have a master staff on the front bar, and then I have rallying crown on the back, which means it's literally impossible to use another 5 set or a 5-piece. So I didn't want to drop my Sea Serpent, which I am using in this build because it's way too strong. I didn't want to drop my Rallying Cry, it's way too strong. I didn't want to drop my Balorg, it's too strong, and I didn't want to drop my Master Staff. So I thought, what can I use that's 4 pieces that is going to do a ton of what I want? So I wanted a mix of tankiness and I wanted a mix of damage. So I tried to figure out a 4-piece that I'm not going to miss out on the 5-piece too much on the build. That's not going to really benefit me, but also give me a ton of value with the 4-piece. So I used Hrothgar. Okay, if you don't know what Hrothgar is, the 5-piece is useless for us because we don't have it. Also, it doesn't really work for what we're trying to do because when you immobilize someone, it does burst damage, but our CC isn't really timed, so it doesn't really work out. Hrothgar's 4-piece, however, is giving literally a little bit of every single thing I want on the build. So the 2-piece is giving health, the 3-piece is giving armor, so it gives 1300 armor, and then the 4-piece is giving 1400 penetration. Alright, so we get 3 pieces of a little bit of everything that we could possibly want, which is really good. We have, yeah, so you're getting health, you're getting armor, and you're getting penetration. So you're getting a nice mix of damage and tankiness and healing because of your polar wind. So that's really good. So it's an insanely good piece to have on for 4 pieces if you don't have an opportunity to run 5. That 4-piece is really strong for Warden. It gives a ton of utility, it gives a ton of damage, it gives a ton of health for a 4-piece set. So really good. So we're using Hrothgar on the heavy pieces, so the chest, the legs, the feet, and then we're using Rallying Cry on the light pieces, which is the waist and hands if we can. And then we are using Balorg heavy helm and a medium Balorg shoulder to get the, I believe we're doing like a mix of 3, 2, and 1 or whatever it is to get the 6% Undaunted. So you get a mix of everything out of it. It's a really good 4-piece. I would totally recommend it. It's nice to have. Alright, so I'm going to run really quick through the rest of the build. Here we're using Sea Serpent's Coil as the mythic. If you don't know what Sea Serpent is, the only downside is that you get snared by 40%, but when you're at full health, you get a 40% damage reduction on the first hit, which is really nice to survive ganks. On top of that, you're going to get Major Berserk after you take damage, so that little blue flame above my head right now is exactly what it is. You get Major Berserk, which is 10% damage, plus you get Major Courage, which is 430 spell damage. So you get 430 spell damage plus Major Berserk, and the only downside is you get snared. Now, the snare isn't that bad when you use Swift on it like I have, and then you have a 30% movement speed from Bird of Prey, so you get that movement speed back, and you're really not that slow anymore. It's an insanely good damage set, but on top of it, the spell damage is also going to buff your healing, so you're getting so much utility out of this. You're just a powerhouse walking around, you can't be killed. So good. Alright, so the last 2 pieces of the build I have to go over is the front and back bar. So on the front bar, we're using Inner Light to get that crit chance and also the extra mana, or extra magic to do some more damage. We're using Deep Fissure for the major and minor breach and also the insane burst damage. We're using Bird of Prey for the minor berserk and the crit damage on the passive, and also the snare immobilization immunity. Alright, so that's really good, and then you get major expedition. Here we're using Fetcher Infection for the big dot, 5% minor vulnerability, and 4% crit damage from the passive. And then we're using Frost Clench to proc our Master Staff. It does a lot of damage. It applies chilled on every single hit, which Wardens do more of, by the way, more chill damage. And then it has a dot on top of it, so if you're in a 1vx situation, you're doing a lot of dot damage around to everybody. really good. And then last but certainly not least, we have Northern Storm, which is one of the best alts in the game. It's going to do a ton of damage. It's giving you major protection, and on top of that, it's going to give you passive weapon and spell damage when the duration is going. So you're getting a lot of weapon and spell damage out of this ability. It's a crazy good set. You can just tank it out until your ult's up, and then you kill everyone. So on the back bar, we're using Ice Fortress to get that minor protection and also our major resolve. We're using Living Trellis to get a ton of passive healing. You get so much healing. It's healing every single second, plus when you activate the skill again, it ends it and then refreshes it, but gives you a burst heal out of it. So you get a same dot, and then you get a nice heal at the end. So you can use this on teammates, use it on yourself. It's really good in team fights because you can just spam it essentially because it's like a cheaper burst heal. It's really, really good. That and Polar Wind together are just a ridiculous amount of heals. So, yeah, speaking of that, we're using Polar Wind. Polar Wind's a gigantic burst heal that's going to give you healing over time. It's going to heal teammates. It's just going to give you a ton of value that most burst heals aren't going to give. It's really good. Then we're using Crystal Slab, which is our CC, which is also our insanely good I'm immune to projectiles skill. If you haven't used this skill on Warden, I would highly, highly suggest it. As you can just see, I stunned him with it right there. But insanely good skill. It gives you a ton of utility, it gives you a ton of tankiness, it gives you a lot of CC to basically anyone spamming snipe or source or anyone trying to kill you. So really, really good. And then last we're using Blue Betty, which is our major sorcery buff. It's also a cleanse, which also in the new update, if you don't cleanse an ability, so you're free of negative effects, you will get a 5% damage bonus for 5 seconds, which is really, really nice. Yeah, so that is the build, guys. For CP, I change my CP a lot. Just look up a Magic Warden CP setup. There's a ton out there, and most of them are the same. It just really revolves around damage. So look those up because, to be honest with you, I'm not the best with CP. I usually play BGs, but I do play some open world, and there's a lot of CPs you can use. So I would look that up. But enjoy the rest of the video. Peace out, guys. Have a great day.